You're listening to Drinks and a Movie with your host, Rudy. Spoiler alert.
Drinks and a Movie podcast. We are back. Thank you to everybody who donated to the cause and then who shared our fundraising event. I couldn't have been able to come back without all of you guys, so thank you for helping out so that I can continue the show here. We're going to consider this season 2, and I was very fortunate to get an amazing superstar guest here with me. In this episode, I have a conversation with cinematographer from Quebec, Andre Turpin. He is a writer and director as well as a cinematographer, but on this episode we're focusing mainly on his collaboration with another Canadian filmmaker, Xavier Dolan. Some recommended viewing for this episode would be Tom at the Farm, Matthias and Maxime, Mommy, and The Death and Life of John F. Donovan. And I know these next two aren't going to be movies, but I had to break the rules because hey, I'm talking to one of the all-time greats. So we also talk about the Adele music video for her single Hello, and also Indoshine's College Boy. So definitely try to check out any of those projects if you get a chance. This dude also shot movies for Denis Villeneuve back in the day when they were coming up together. So if you're a fan of Denis Villeneuve, go check out some of the earlier films. I've recently finally got to see Ensemble, which if you haven't seen it is an amazing movie, and I'll definitely do an episode on it. So unfortunately we don't really talk about that one here, but yeah, a ton of great info, ton of great wisdom here. This man is a craftsman. He's an artist and just has no ego about him, and it was just amazing talking to this dude. So without further ado, here's our conversation. How are you doing?
Very good, thanks. I'm stuck in my apartment and everything is done by Zoom and FaceTime, but I'm still having fun.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Thank you so much for joining this morning. I know it's pretty early. So yeah, I just wanted to, start by talking about the beginning of your career. I first kind of got introduced to your work through a friend that showed me some Xavier Dolan movies a few years ago, and I was like just really struck by the imagery. I've gone through, I think, pretty much the whole filmography there, as well as like a couple of music videos you guys have done that I really want to talk about. So I just wanted to ask to start, did you always want to be a filmmaker? Because you direct, you write, and you shoot. Like as a child, is that what you knew you wanted to do, or did it change over time?
Zero. What I liked was physics. And when I was in Cégep, that's a school we have here. It's about when you're. I was 19 actually when I took an extra class in cinema. I was doing like a hardcore science studies and wanted to become a physicist. And I took one class of cinema, a class where I discovered all about author films, which I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about cinema at all. I mean, I used to watch James Bond's films and films like Grease and stuff like that. And I didn't even watch a lot of films, and I had not a lot of culture in general either. But this class, this one teacher had me discover author films when I was 19. And also I did a film for that class. And I just completely switched my life around and told my parents I was going to university in filmmaking and not I was not going to become an engineer or a physicist. And and so it was just one shot deal, like a heart, like we say a coup de foudre, when you fall in love with somebody really intensively.
Right.
So I just discovered all of it at once. And I spent the next 3 years studying cinema in university and making a lot of films. I made films for myself, films for university, but also I started shooting as a DP other people's films, and I also discovered still photography at the same time.
Okay.
I took a couple of classes, darkroom stuff, and then when I came out of university, there was no question about it. This is what I was going to do.
Cool, right on. And when you were in like the classes pursuing it, did you know specifically like I'm trying to be a director or I'm trying to be a cinematographer, or did it just kind of fall into place and you did what you could and now you're here?
I wanted to be a director. I knew that, but I really enjoyed doing cinematography for my own films and for my friends' films. And when I came out of school, both options were what I wanted to do. I wanted to, I right after school, I went to Peru to shoot a short film of my own, but at the same time, I started shooting films for other. I was very lucky to come out of university when it was the big boom of music videos. It was MTV in the States and Music Plus here in Quebec, and I mean there was we were young and we built little companies to produce music videos, and we just shot and shot and shot. But what was interesting and fun was that we were not part of the big industry, the real industry. We're doing our own stuff with our friends, but having key functions. You know, we were directors, editors, cinematographers right away, and on smaller projects. And we could live off it also because there was money to be made in music videos, and because the budgets were really small, the big industry were not touching it. And their ways of making cinema was very heavy, and so they didn't want to touch that industry. We really jumped on that industry, and at the same time we wrote our own films and we started shooting our own feature films, but hiring our friends as crews instead of asking for money from the government and blah blah blah. And so that we sort of because there was a lot of talent in our 2 years where I was studying at university, 3 years actually, but I mean the two levels of my classmates, a lot of them today are still working. You know, it was Jean-Marc Vallée, it was Yves Bélanger, great cinematographer. It was Éric Canuel and Pierre Gill, and tons of people who were really we really connected. And I met Denis Villeneuve right after school. He came to get me. He was at another university, but so that that web of people working together very young, and we just wanted to shoot all the time, is what made us grow the ladder. And a producer called Roger Frappier saw that there was something with us, you know, and he said, I want to make a film with 6 of you young people, three women and 3 men. And Denis Villeneuve was one of them, and I was one of them also. And we made a film called Cosmos, and that it was like a black and white. I shot the film for everybody, but as a cinematographer, but I directed one part of it. It was like a sketch film.
Okay.
And that film went to Cannes to the Fortnight, and we won. And so when we came back to Quebec, then the government started giving us money to do our own films. You know? That's how we got on the map.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. That's actually really inspiring. Just the idea of just going out and shooting and getting it done yourself. I mean, so it sounds like with the exception of school, like you guys just creating your own body of work really was, for the most part, like the school. You didn't come up like traditionally, I guess, where you were like a grip on a crew and then a gaffer and then this, or like a camera assistant. You just went straight for it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Straight for it. And that's always, when I talk to students, that's always my main. I have a lot of what do you call them, stagiaires? You have that in the States, stagiaire, you know? Yes. How do you call them? When somebody comes on the set, a student comes and he's a witness to the whole production. Okay. He follows somebody that shadows you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's when I always tell young people that want to make film, you know, do not become an assistant. Or I mean, if you can become an assistant to make some money in the summer, maybe that's okay.
Right.
But mainly what I tell them is shoot all the time.
Yeah.
Shoot as much as you can. Edit your own stuff. Create. If you want to be a cinematographer and you don't have directors working with you, then direct yourself your small clips, movies. And especially today, I mean, we were doing it. I was shooting all the time. I rented a VHS camera.
Okay.
I had it always with me, but seriously, like it was like my wallet. Couldn't leave without my wallet, my keys, and my video camera. And I was shooting. I was stopping at a red light, and I was shooting a bit like today, I guess, when you use Instagram or you know, you're always using your phone. I was not looking at anything. I was shooting stuff and editing in camera and doing small exercises with our friends. We just wanted to shoot, and I think it was important that we have real structured projects that we wrote, and real films or real short films or longer films that we structured and want to shoot. But also, I thought it was really important that we shoot stuff that we would throw in the garbage afterwards, like that
Right.
you're going to throw in the garbage, so you can really try stuff. You're not censoring yourself. You're really going out there and trying tacky stuff, hardcore stuff that nobody will ever see, but you're experimenting all the time. And this is the way I think we developed our foremost senses. I was always thinking of the cliche of the painter that can paint every day, but the filmmaker can only direct once a year or once every 3 years, which I think is still ridiculous. I think you should always be sketching with your camera all that time. And today, with all the technology available, of course, I was shooting a video camera, but I also was shooting 16, black and white 16.
Right.
I was using film stock from our music videos, like leftovers, short ends and stuff, and shooting all the time. But today, I mean, with all the cameras and the edit suites that you have on your computer and your phone and everything, it's so easy to be shooting all the time and making films.
Yeah, it is interesting to, coming up in the digital era with DSLRs and everything, to kind of think back to, man, if someone wanted to shoot something, they had to go through the process of buying film, making sure they had money, getting the camera, then after the fact, all right, now I need more money to process and scan and do all that stuff, and then color time and all that. So it's pretty, it is much easier now, I would think.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
I'm sure it makes a difference also because, exposing film, I think everybody should go through it for all the aesthetic reasons and everything, but also it's exactly the contrary of what I was just talking about, where you shoot all the time, whatever.
Right.
Because you don't have a lot and you have to concentrate. I think it's also a good exercise to have a limited amount of what you can shoot. It's exactly the opposite, but then you have to concentrate. You have to make sure. You have to think out. It's more like a lot more reasoning. It's less instinct, a lot more reasoning. I guess editing on a Steenbeck at the time was also that same thing. Before you did a cut, mind you, I'm not nostalgic at all of those times. When I discovered with my first feature, I discovered Avid editing and non-linear editing. Because when we were doing music videos, we were going from 3/4 to 3/4, magnetic to magnetic. So it was linear. So it was really, you had to think of the cut you wanted to do before you did it, right?
Right.
But when Avid came along, I thought it was such a fantastic tool because you could edit with instinct instead of editing with the reason,
Right. Yeah, I have yet to cut on film. I don't know if I ever will, but I've heard it's quite the undertaking. I know for me, I've shot on film a few times on 16.
Yeah.
And it's always like I just go and I get short ends, kind of like you 125 feet, rent the camera, and like you said, I like to do it because I think it teaches you, especially nowadays, like discipline. Whereas I'm used to being on sets with people and they just let the camera roll for 20 minutes straight through these takes.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, no, we've got this amount of time. It's like a finite amount of time. And then also just having something physical, I think after that, like you hold and this is it. This is all the pictures,
And also getting it back from the lab, that moment when you get it back, I mean, that's priceless. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, no, I know for me, I'll take my laptop with me to the place I get it scanned. That way, as soon as I get it, I'm in the car watching it as soon as possible,
Exactly.
So I think that could be a good transition to, I think, getting into your body of work with Xavier Dolan, because it seems like you do all your projects on 35 millimeter, I want to say, right? And I mean, in your guys' case, I think there's some meetings that seem to be fate as far as like the director cinematographer duo, like Wong Kar-wai and Chris Doyle, or like a Matt Libatique and a Darren Aronofsky, and a bunch of other examples that are slipping my mind right now. But how did you guys come to meet and do your first project together?
Well, socially we came to meet once only with Denis Villeneuve. I was having a drink with Denis, and we just met Xavier in a bar. He came to see us. He knew who we were, and we knew who he was. He had shot 3 films already, and we spent the whole night, like until the morning, discussing film. And we went to his place and we discussed and drank, and it was a very nice meeting. But then I didn't see him for a while, and I never actually socially saw him back. I wrote something to him when he finished Laurence Anyways. I saw the film and I just wrote to him what I liked about the film. But that was it. That was the only contact we had. And then he had shot Laurence Anyways, his 3rd film. He had shot it with Yves Bélanger, which is a very, very good friend of mine, the guy that's shooting Jean-Marc Vallée films, Dallas Buyers Club, and he's shooting also Clint Eastwood films now.
Right.
And I'm very close friend with Yves Bélanger. He was also a Concordia student. And he had a difficult choice, Yves, of shooting Xavier's next film, which was because they really liked each other when they worked on Laurence Anyways. They fell in love, and he had the difficult choice of doing Xavier's next film, which was Tom at the Farm, or doing Jean-Marc's Vallée. I don't think it was Wild or if it was Dallas Buyers Club. I don't remember which one, but so he said to Xavier, "I'm sorry, I have to go do Jean-Marc's film." But it's Yves that said, "But you got to hire Andre. I mean, this is the guy in Quebec that you should work with." And he did. He called me up, and I went to meet him. I thought it was really weird, and but I really liked the film project. I really enjoyed. There was something about Tom at the Farm that made me think of not Reservoir Dogs, but the Sam Peckinpah film, Straw Dogs.
Straw Dogs. Okay.
Straw Dog. It really made me think of that film. We talked about it a lot, actually, and I liked his approach. I liked everything about him. I thought he was a very special character, Xavier, because he is, and especially when he meets somebody for the first times, and we did that film, and it went well. I had not done such a small film in a long time. It was shot. I'm a very slow shooter, so I normally shoot features in 35 days, 40 days. My own features are all 35, 40 days, and some a little longer. But the project was to shoot this one in 35 in 19 days. We only had $1 million or €1 million, I think, to shoot the film because money came from France, and it really connected the two of us together. I think Xavier likes me as a cinematographer because I am my special talent is not about cinematography itself. It is a little bit, but it's more about adapting and trying to understand what is the vision of the director. I think that if I have any talent, I think it's that one. I consider myself to be more at the service of a director's vision more than an artist putting out my own vision out there. And I think this is probably what he appreciates from me, my openness to going into any direction. I'm there to make sure that when we do choose a direction, we try to keep it there. We try to make it structured and not go out of that direction. But I think that's probably what he appreciated from me as a cinematographer.
Do you guys, because I mean, it seems like there's, with him writing, directing, editing, and as far as I think does like costumes and everything, is there like a lookbook you guys go off of? Because in all those films, there's like a very specific style and like a interesting ways to convey like intensity within the story and all that. Do you guys sit and watch a bunch of movies together and go through just like photography and stuff?
Yeah. Every film he makes, he puts a lookbook out there. It's a big one, like at least 100-page, sometimes 200 pages.
Wow.
Lookbook that he edits himself. It's like a book. It's like I have all of them. They're nice books,
Yeah.
And there's different in the lookbook itself. There's tons of images, but there's chapters. This is the costume chapter. This is a character, like inspiration for one character. Then there'll be a whole chapter on that, and it's all photography of different portraits, and then there'll be one for lighting. And When he gives it to me, he puts a lot of post-its on them with little scene numbers written. So certain scenes have really certain specific looks that he thinks about, and sometimes it's specific shots that he wants to recreate. Less and less today, but he still does intense lookbooks. So he has those very specific lookbooks, and we do have film references. We do look at films together, but the films that come out don't really look like that. Normally, and even when I look at his lookbooks, they're not always coherent. Like, I look at lighting and texture and angles, and I'm looking at, and I'm trying to see what is the coherence. I mean, all is very good, and all the images are very strong, and it always like stimulates me a lot, because we're gonna make a nice looking movie. I mean,
right.
But I think that's great for that, and there's a basis for discussion, which is fantastic. We look at an image and we say, what do you like about it? How is it? And I will confront him, and I will say, okay, perfect. But then you're also giving me this very gray image here, which is very bland, and I mean, they don't connect together. How? So I confront him, and so I think it's good for discussion. But after that, when we do make the film, before we make the film, we do testing, and we do quite extensive testing. Not like on big American productions, but we will test with full crew in real sets where we're going to shoot normally for 2 days. And I'm going to test lenses, I'm going to test looks, I'm going to test lighting for precise scene that he has in mind. We're going to test gels, colors. We're going to test wardrobe. We're going to test lenses. Like, our main characters, we're going to film them with different lenses to see what fits them. Stuff like that. They're quite intense, and they're full crew now. I mean, normally I would do tests for my other films would be with a 5-person crew, but now it's full crew, and it's in a location where we're gonna be shooting. We did that with Mathias and Maxime. We shot where there's a party in the house.
Yeah.
We shot there for 2 days, and in streets around, and I tested all kinds of stuff. I do a whole list of things I want to test, and there's an assistant director that comes with us, and we're gonna. And there's CCM, because we want to try. They're trying out makeups and hairdos and costumes, and set deck will come in and put different kinds of colors on the wall, paintings, and I'll shoot them all, stuff like that. It's really extensive, and I would believe that there's more of the look that comes out of those tests than the lookbooks. We also look at films sometimes. What I like to do with a director is, in prep, is we meet up with a bunch of films they have, I have, and we look at them in fast forward with no sound. And when you do that, you really capture something else from a film. You capture the language much more. You feel how the scenes are cut. You feel when they push in, and you feel all the different atmospheres. And then we stop on one scene and we look at one scene. It's mostly like enjoying cinema together, but. We do that also with the art director if possible, and it's good basis for discussions. Sometimes Xavier comes in with references that I really hate. I mean, one of his big references for one film we made was like a Basketball Diaries with really, and we looked at it, and I said, "What do you like about this?" And I think his souvenir of it was better than the actual film look. But as we go along, now we've made quite a few films together. We don't have to discuss as much.
Right.
He throws a lot of stuff out there when we're scouting together, but we're not. We know each other much more, and things are a bit more intuitive. But still, I mean, for this project, we're the next film we're doing. It's a series actually. He wants us to test bleach bypass for flashback scenes, and we also, in certain scenes he wants to shoot in 70 mil instead of 35. We did that for a couple of his films. We shot 70 mils for certain scenes, and so he has stuff he wants to try. And so that's about how we prepare visually for the films we make.
Yeah, wow, that's super interesting. Man, I feel like you guys could probably release a documentary that just all the test footage, and that would be a hit with with a lot of people, a lot of students and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Also with cut scenes, especially. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
all the scenes we cut from John F. Donovan film. Oh, you couldn't believe it. I mean, he cut half the footage, half the days of shoot. We shot 74 days, and he kept like 32 days
wow,
shooting. And what he cut with all the big visual stuff, like
wow,
all shot at 70 mil with helicopter shots and huge scene with 200 extras all dressed in red, like that we shot for 2 days. And he shot and he well, there's a whole character that he cut, so I mean, all related to the Jessica Chastain character, all was all cut. And he we shot a huge, super big Harry Potterish scene. We shot a whole 3-minute film that was the introduction of the film, that was shot in Prague, and it was 1910 a period piece. It was the introduction of our film was all supposed to be that. That film exists. It was edited and everything.
yeah, wow,
It out, but he's got so much, like a special effects scene where there's 40,000 letters coming out of a well and spinning with Natalie Portman and the Jacob, the young actor, and they were all spinning, and he did all the special effects on them.
yeah,
Everything, and the music was scored to it and everything, and he cut the scene out afterwards. But there was I would love to see that document. Another
right,
document that would be interesting is to see him direct his actresses, because that's a phantasm I had about a documentary on Xavier, because there's a lot of stuff that been, you know, a lot of pieces of work that have been done on him as a director, but nothing has been done on how he directs actors and actresses especially. But I think it'd be fascinating that I point a camera on him when he was directing,
mm-hmm.
and then intercut with what you see on the screen,
Right,
because in certain types of scenes he speaks over the actors constantly, directing them and inventing dialogue and giving them things to say, things to do, and he like mags and mags and mags over. He'll direct the same shot, but he's standing 2 feet from the actor, just with a small monitor, and he's talking to them directly. And that's where I find you can see how brilliant he is, because that's where you see how his brain works, you know, and how he knows his characters. And how he loves his characters. When you see him directing Anne Dorval like that in Mommy, Anne Dorval is the mother character.
yeah,
I mean, and also the neighbor in front. When he directs these two girls together, and he's just sitting down there and he's just improvising, ad-libbing, brilliant dialogue that he invents. And then when you see, these actresses are quite amazing. I think you see them hearing the idea, throwing it out in their own way,
right.
in the character's way. I think there's a little piece of a documentary that could be done on that.
Yeah,
it's quite good with that.
Yeah, no, that sounds very interesting. I imagine with him also being the editor, you know, and knowing exactly what to use and where these cuts are going to be, that probably, because it comes across very seamless. I wouldn't have even thought about that watching a movie, which, you know, you shouldn't, because you should be engaged in the story, of course. But wow, yeah,
but it's true that he knows that he's editing. He knows what he needs. He knows what he can use, and that it's a hell for dialogue editors, you know.
Right, yeah.
Because he's talking all the time.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
That could be fascinating.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of cool behind the scenes that could be taken from what the work you guys do. I wanted to ask, like, going back to Tom at the Farm and then even Mommy, and there's another music video you guys did, which is my all-time favorite music video, College Boy, the 1:1 aspect ratio, black and white, very powerful. I think one thing that's interesting with all these projects is you guys do something that I hadn't really seen before, at least to this extent, which is using like an active change in aspect ratio and perspective to like further, I guess, plunge the feeling of the story into the person. Like I remember seeing Mommy in theaters. I saw it at ArcLight in Hollywood. In the moments where it opens up from 1-1 to 1, I didn't even notice because I was just so like that whole montage at the end. And after I'm talking to my friend about it, and he's like, "Oh, did you see that?" I was like, "No, I didn't even know that happened." Like when he's on the skateboard, it opens up. I was like, I'm just like into it. And in the same with Tom at the Farm, it's so subtle when you guys, when Francis is like choking him out on top of it, it's getting really intense, and you guys just kind of bring the scene in.
That's all Xavier. That's all.
Yeah.
The square thing comes from me,
Mm-hmm.
but in College Boy, that's what I proposed it. But the changing aspect ratio is really his thing. It's really.
How did what like for you? Why did you pitch the 1-1? Like what was the
I pitched it because we were talking about he likes to pound it, to reflect on the aspect ratio a lot, obviously, and we were talking about for this music video, and I'm the one that proposed it because I'm very jealous of I've always been jealous of all the graphic designers that do CD covers, and the square ratio, and I thought it's so sad that cinema is limiting the aspect ratio to 185 or 235 99% of the time, and 133 sometimes. And I just pitched that. I said, it's a music video, why not? We can do it, because we talked about the fact that this music videos would be seen on phones,
right,
mostly, and everything. And so we talked about 235 aspect, how small it gets on the phone, blah blah blah. And I said, why don't we do the square? I don't know if I was into Instagram yet. Yeah, maybe not. Anyways, so I pitched it to him, and he really loved it, and I think he did a great job with it. We both did a good job with it in College Boy more than in Mommy, because in College Boy, I'm really a fan of that video too, and I think we used the square aspect ratio in a more photographic way than we could do it in Mommy. Because when you're shooting a scene, shot, counter shot, and stuff like that, you cannot frame in such a graphic way that disturbs the spectator's attention, except if you're doing very long shots, like Cold War, or what's the first one? Ida, Cold War and
Ida. Yeah,
they're shot on 1:3 aspect ratio, and they're black and white, and his use of the frame is very calculated and tableau-like, and very strong, and not at all classical, but he uses long shots. So I think you can do that, put a character down right and another one far back in the top, and use the square frame in a very vertical way also. But it's very difficult if you want to be moving your camera, and
right,
as Xavier Style does in Mommy. So that's how it came about in the College Boy, and he liked it so much. We were prepping Mommy at that time, and that's why he decided he's going to do it for Mommy. I was really scared because really, even shooting Mommy, I kept saying, maybe this scene we should open up also in this scene. And he was very strict, and it's a good thing. He was very strict. And he said, no, we're opening up 2 times. That's it. I know you miss the long frame, because it's very difficult to shoot 1:1 aspect ratio, except when you're doing nice. I really loved it for nice close-ups, very with a bit of headroom. I think it's perfect for single shots. But when you're in a house and you're trying to see 3 characters that are split apart, you get a lot of ceiling, a lot of floor, So it was difficult for me. But I do admit that when those moments open up, whether you see it or not, you feel that liberty coming in. I think I'm really proud of Xavier for thinking of that. But I'm also happy we didn't do it for the next film.
Yeah. No, it was very interesting, and I think just executed incredibly well. I imagine it must have been pretty difficult to, like, I guess, change the approach slightly. Like, did you have to tend to use, like, most of the time wider lenses too, to make sure you kind of...
Yeah. Also, at the time, Xavier doesn't like wide lens at all.
Right.
He said, look, do anything under 27. Even 27, I think he finds quite difficult. So, but sometimes we didn't have a choice. But mind you, the film is so many close-ups.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't really become a problem. We could still use our regular lenses. And I remember even at the end, there's a scene at the end of Mummy where they're in the kitchen. The two women are talking after the boy has gone, and I think it's one of the nicest, not visually, but one of the nice scenes, very touching scene.
Yeah.
Where you see the character's ego, faking that she's not sad that her neighbor's going away. And I remember Xavier saying, for one moment in the scene, we're going to go up close and go wider and do a wider close-up lens. And that was the beginning of him thinking that close-ups are all not done on 65 or longer lens, which he used to do before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now, I mean, that was the start, but I think now he becomes much more aware, not only of the effect on beauty of using different lenses on somebody, but also on the different impact it has on how the spectator receives a close-up.
Yeah, definitely.
And now I think he's much more open on shooting a bit wider, closer in. I mean, wider being 30 mil or 27, 32 mil, which is not very wide. But I shot something within this summer. It was 16 anamorphic, and it was an interview with him. I was shooting him, and when the rushes came in, we were two cameras. So when the rushes came in, he really said, "Andre, you cannot use that length of lens with me anymore." And I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm too old and too fat now for that. So you have to come up closer and wider, and you cannot compress me anymore." That's it. I was a bit disappointed, but actually we had shot other shots of the interview, and those are the ones he used because he was editing his interview himself. So, but he's now he's as a director, he's really aware of lens length, effect, and power on an image. He's really conscious of that,
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but going back to that scene in Mommy that you had mentioned with Anne Dorval at the end, after she talks about how the neighbor's moving. I just wanted to say real quick, that's one of the most brilliant moments of acting and just everything coming together when she's about to cry and just trying to hold it in is just so impactful.
Thinking about it. I agree with like that.
In the case of Tom at the Farm, when you guys are kind of doing the opposite, where it's becoming wider as the scene gets intense, and you're cropping in the top and bottom. I'm just curious, really quickly, how that was executed, like, because through the viewfinder, I imagine you're seeing like the full wide screen, and you have to just imagine where it's going to end up. So
we can put frame lines on the monitor though.
Right.
Yeah, just on monitors to actually frame it like that.
Okay, right. So like as the scene's going on, you just kind of know that you have to adjust to keep everybody in the center. That's awesome.
Exactly. And mind you also, it's not super, I mean, because it's shot on 3perf 185 16:9, you know that you can pan scan also in post.
Right.
You can reframe the image, so it's not that delicate. You just have to be aware that not be too close in, so that you're not lacking any part of the image.
Yeah, I wanted to get into the Hello video you guys did for Adele, which I think was 35, and you guys also shot IMAX on that too, right?
Yeah.
All right, and that's all like the exterior, like performance shots. That stuff's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's only 7 shots.
Okay.
There's one that's I think still was probably at the top of her album or something. It's a close up of her looking up.
Yes.
The eyes are focused and nothing is. Otherwise, it's like the big singing on the lake, all the leaves.
The
leaves,
the wind. Yeah.
And one is in the field singing. It's so tacky, this video. And singing she's walking in, I think, with her big coat, walking in the leaves. But Xavier does that. He wants to experiment with 70 mil a lot, and when he has money, like in a music video like this, it's a good place for him to try that.
Right.
It was hell shooting in IMAX. It was very complicated technically.
Really,
but it was nice though. I thought the result was nice. I saw these rushes. You can't see such a big difference, but when I got my rushes, I saw them on the first time I saw the rushes of that, it was on my phone. and I really felt, even if it was on my phone, I really felt the silkiness of how it's crisp and silky at the same time. I don't know how to describe it, but everything becomes nicer and easier to shoot. I shot a lot of 70mm actually for John F. Donovan, and it's so easy. It's difficult on set, of course, but it's so easy to make beautiful images. 70mm it's an amazing format, I think. It's very difficult to light for because there's so much no depth of field, you know, and if that's not the look, if that's not the look you want, then it becomes difficult. But I think if it was not so expensive, I'd love to use it much more.
Yeah, I think, you know, some people will refer to works as like every frame a painting, and that video, like, is, I guess, tacky as it could be, is to me every frame a painting, like all your foreground elements and the soft focus and or not soft focus, but just the very shallow depth of field, you know. And did you use a lot of filtration on that one, like pro mist and that kind of stuff?
I don't remember. Maybe maybe there's something. Oh, I know what we did. No, what we used actually is we had lenses come in from we tested lenses from Germany. Vantage has them in Los Angeles. Are they the Hawks? They're like spherical lenses that open up to T1.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they tend to bloom when they open to T1. But then and we use them on the first part of the shoot of John Donovan. Also, we used them, but I got sick of them at one point. It's really nice to do a special effects shot when you're doing a close up at T1. You know how there's nothing at all.
Yeah.
I'm getting sick of shadow depth of field now with all the large format cameras, you know, the Venice and the LF and the Monstro. The shadow depth of field, I think, is getting on my nerves. I think they make very thin images, and I've been trying in all these years. I've been trying to get Xavier away from shadow depth of field.
Yeah.
Like, and I think now, for the last one we did, he agreed. He agreed to close down at 5.6 or whatever. He's a rare director that will actually ask for each shot, what stop are you shooting at right now? What stop are you shooting at right now?
Interesting.
And he really always wanted me to put NDs on and open up more. But now I'm getting him to stop down a little more, and I'm really appreciating that, you know. When the sets are nice, I like to see them, and I like to frame the elements as real elements, not as just blurred out, fluffy.
Right.
But obviously, there's some very nice stuff to be done with shadow depth of field, and I still use it a lot, especially with the Alexa. But I don't know. So yeah, so there was not. I think there was a bit of filtration I used, a low con filtration maybe, but I think it was more the effect of the
wide aperture, the T1.
Yeah, the T1 aperture.
Yeah.
And because when you open up the T1, it's actually not a real T1, but you get less depth of field, but you also get a sort of a glow.
Yeah. No, it's like watching it, it's clear that like the lenses have very much their own character, especially in that video.
Yeah.
And you know, I love your lighting. Like, I have photos from like just stills from your guys' movies I use as inspiration. Just, it's always on my phone to look at. In that video, and I mean all the movies too, even especially from what I remember, it's Only the End of the World. That's the other one I was thinking of. The lighting is so soft, yet you still maintain a lot of contrast, which I think is really interesting. I mean, can you talk about your approach to that? Do you have kind of a go-to way of lighting it? Yeah.
Well, you just described it. I really like single direction. That's I think that's the thing that's super important for me. Single direction. That's why I like my apartment, for example. There's windows on just one side, you know.
Okay.
It'd be perfect to shoot here. I like single direction, very, very, very soft, but quite contrasty. So negative fill, and you know, and just getting the second eye. Maybe that's sort of my go-to lighting scheme. if there's going to be any sunshine, and so sunshine is not soft, but it's hard, then I will keep it low. I will have it hit the characters, but not directly on the faces. So that's a start point. But of course, I'm trying all kinds of different stuff. But on the face, I really like it soft. I've been inspired by Deakins on everything he ever did in his life, but on Blade Runner, I really like that typical lighting that he used that was sort of non-directional in the face with a very strong but extremely soft backlight.
Right.
That's something I've been trying out lately because I think a good DP should be able to light good images with all kinds of different lightings,
Yeah. Right.
And I think Deakins is the master of that. Everything is really well motivated, but it still looks nice,
Yeah.
When I'm stuck with hard sun front lit, I'm really stuck with it. I don't know what to do with it. But he somehow manages to make it work. Or when you stuck, I don't like hard backlights.
Okay.
With the sun as a motivation, I think it's fine. But with any practical lights, giving a hard backlight, I really have a hard time with that. But he manages to have one key and the back, and it still doesn't look like a 70s TV show, so
right.
But my go-to lighting is what you described before, so directional, side, soft, with nothing else hitting the character.
And
if I go to a room and there's windows on both sides, I won't do that, obviously.
Right. What's typically your means of, I'm sorry if I'm getting too detailed here, but I'm just curious what what means of softening do you prefer? Like, is it like a bounce then through a diffusion? Do you do like double breaks and stuff?
Nothing precise. I used to go as soft as possible, so I would do that bounce and then double diffuse and stuff like that. But I try now to do something that is more practical on set. I will go direct, and then I will double diffuse. I'll use a grid to keep it contained. The whole problem with soft lighting is keeping it contained.
Right.
So, you can't have so many flags and stuff. So, but I usually will try to put the diffusion very close to the actors as much as I can. It changes at every shot, but I use Magic Cloth, which is the best invention in the last.
Yeah.
After the S60 or the Titans, I think Magic Cloth is the best invention. I use Magic Cloth a lot. I'll use as thick as possible, muslins, Rolex, and often I will double diffuse instead of bouncing and then trying to contain all of that. I'm trying to be more efficient now because I'm a really slow lighter and I'm not efficient at all. And I really need to look at my subject and react to it. I cannot do like good lighting plans and I come on set and everything works well. It never happens with me. It's always ugly when I strike a lamp. It looks like, what will I do? And I'll start diffusing and then put a little color and then cutting the rest. And then, so I still today find it arduous to do lighting. I don't apply something. It's rare that I apply something and it works already. Sometimes, I light a camera and hey, this looks good. I don't know what's going on here, but let's not change it too much, But for sure, soft but contrasty lighting is something I really like.
Yeah, and do you? When you guys are shooting in some of these smaller locations, does that mean to achieve the contrasty look? Do you find yourself like just getting lots of duvetine, and do you just completely cover walls at times and do stuff like that?
Completely. Yeah. And with Xavier, it's very difficult because he doesn't care that it's small location. That's a fight I've been having with him since the start. He's just starting to change his mind now because the assistant director jumps in and says, "Hey, man, we can't shoot in here,"
Right.
So yes, I've had to learn to work in small locations, and one way I do is working with Lico lights that I bounce everywhere. And I often add a Lico at the end of my lighting scheme and just come in, bounce it a little bit on the floor and giving some oomph. But yes, I do use negative fill a lot. I do create contrast with it and you put black all over. I'm not a elegant lighter. When you walk on my sets, they don't look good. When I see pictures from the American cinematographer or whatnot, they're all like clean, slick sets. Mine are like a piece of gel hanging from a GoPro with a black here and black there, and actors are like in this box where they have to less and less. Today, I'm trying to give actors more space, but it's not pretty. It's a bit of a war zone.
Right. Well, I definitely enjoy hearing that because I feel very similar in a lot of ways where I see some people light and they just have it in their head and know like, all right, these fixtures with these diffusions and we're good, and they don't even have to see it. Whereas me, it's like I could do the exact same thing they did and it will be garbage for some reason. And I'm like, why is this not working right now?
Yeah, the original plan I have in mind is always, okay, we're just putting 18Ks outside with big muzzes or big diffusions, and they go through the windows and look good.
Yeah.
And often it's just not right, and I have to then look at exactly where I put the lamps, and then we have to cut them. And there's always like pollution coming in somewhere, and I'm sort of old school with that because I come from film and photochemical color correction. So I'm trying not to say we'll take care of that, shadow in post or whatever. I know a lot about post, and I do it sometimes, but I try to get the right look on set. So it makes it a bit lengthy, I would say.
Right. And it sounds like you're pretty hands-on with the lighting then, it sounds like, right? Like, are you in there, like are you moving stuff yourself and everything? Okay.
No, not a lot. No, I don't touch stuff a lot on set, except if it's a very, very small project. I just did a short, once a year I do a short film for a friend of mine, short films that he does. He pays himself his own short films once a year, and I think they're quite nice. And I just have a 3-person crew or something, and then I will touch equipment. And I like to touch equipment, but when I'm directly on set, sometimes I'll push a diffusion in or out or whatever, or when we're wrapping to go to the set and we have to go to another shot and we have to make some space, then I will start undoing stuff, and I like to do that. But when I'm building a shot, I'm never touching anything. I'm just trying to give cues to my gaffer and grip. And I even I had a hard time with my gaffer for years and years because he would be touching the equipment so much. And I was telling him, if you want to touch the equipment, touch it, but give me somebody to communicate with, because I don't like to work with walkies. So it was a big thing we had to get, I really want them close so I can, because the ideas they keep coming out. It's not a big, okay, this is my plan, set it up. I'm reacting to what I'm seeing as I go along. So I really need my guys to be very close, or girls. I also work with women, to be very close and picking up the information. Because when I have an idea, I want to say it right away because I don't want to lose it. I want my brain to go somewhere else, So that's why I don't really touch the equipment that much.
One thing I noticed that was interesting, again, going to like how you guys, use your framing and just like camera movement to convey the story, I thought was interesting in the Death and Life of John F. Donovan, which I finally saw just this week. And I'm interested in hearing some of the thought process with this is, there's a very specific kind of, I guess, style, just approach. And then once you guys introduced Susan Sarandon's character, his mother, I noticed something very interesting where you guys were on a zoom lens, and it, like at the end of every phrase or shot of someone, it'd kind of punch in or punch out, which I thought was super interesting. It almost gave it this to me, and I don't know if this is what you guys were going for, but it reminded me of like video camera footage of like a family get together kind of, and it does like ramp up the energy of the scene of like what she's bringing and everyone saying hello. Was that kind of like what was the thought behind that? It was just very interesting.
We use that technique also a lot in
Matthias, right?
And that's and Xavier really, when he used it on Matthias and Maxime, it came from introduction scene, exactly what you said, when they're in a hallway in Sarandon for the dinner. That's where it all started. So that's all Xavier. I used to do that. My first films are like that. My first feature film called Zigrai, it's a super independent feature. It's quite good, actually. There's really something there. You should see it. Maybe, I don't know if you No, I don't know how you could see it, but it's on a platform here in Quebec. But it's an independent road movie, black and white road movie to Europe, and it's really formally extremely quite powerful, actually. A lot of shots, a lot of ideas, super expressive formally, editing wise also, and it's with the music of John Zorn. I don't know if you have John Zorn, but so it's and I used to do that a lot. I was really like in Un Crabe dans la tête, my second feature film. Also, there's a lot of that, like looking for the characters, finding them. I had done that, and so I not touched that in a long time. And when Xavier asked for it, I thought to me it was like, oh, my teen years, like I remember that from when I was very young. And the way I think it's very interesting, the way he uses it is I'm framing, or a camera operator is framing. In this case, it was me, but I'm not operating the zoom. He is. Xavier.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's, I think, is little special touch that makes it so interesting. He did the same with Mathias and Maxime. So sometimes he would even, I think he was even acting in Mathias and Maxime and secretly pulling the zoom, under the shot, like having the zoom. So I think it comes. I think the video reference you do, the family video filmmaking aspect of it, I don't know if it's thought of, but for sure I think it's a great reference. I think you're right, and that's what it conveys. And it's that sense of uncertainty and getting dynamics in a scene, and not something that is
perceptible, or
no, that you cannot tell in advance that it's coming.
Foreshadowing.
I don't know how
telegraphing.
Yes, no. Yeah. Anyways, surprising.
Yeah.
Surprising. It's creating chaos because the framer, the cameraman himself, doesn't know when the zoom's going to happen, and you have to react to a zoom, right? If you're not centered in the frame, then I'm going to zoom in on your shoulder. So then you have to react. So it forces the camera operator to do movements that when I was younger, I was trying to create that sense of uncertainty and imprevisibility. It would be the direct translation from French, and it would be a little fake. You'd feel that we're trying to simulate uncertainty, but in this case, it's real. You don't know when you'll zoom in, and so you're always a bit late in reacting to it. And I think it was quite bright that he figured that scheme up, but. So you're right. There is a different formal approach when we get to the Susan Sarandon character.
Yeah, no, I definitely like that. I mean, as I mentioned before, I think you guys are really good at using the tools to, not just do stuff for the sake of doing it, but everything is very purposeful, and it's like we get this style change for this particular character in this particular moment. And yeah, I did notice how it was sustained into the latest film you guys did when all the friends are together,
That Xavier's a formalist, It did. All these ideas are not coming from me. I think I'm there to bounce back and structure him, but he's the one coming in with a strong visual feeling, and I really appreciate that from a director, because I think that this is what I'm asking a director. I'm not the one that's gonna tell you what the film should look like. I'm helping you make it look that way, and I'm re-questioning some stuff and proposing some stuff that will go in that formal approach. But the formal approach has to come from the director. Even the shots, for me, it's the director that's framing. I'm operating the camera, but I will help him find shots. Sometimes it's super long with him finding shots. He's not a natural framer in the sense that he won't tell you, okay, camera's going there, actor's there, this is the lens.
Right.
Sometimes he'll ask for a lens and then say 100 mil for that. I mean, this is going to be the shot. We're in the bathrooms, Oh yeah, right. Doesn't work. But he's the one that's really the signature of his films really come from him. And I think that if he changes DP, like Godard, when he changed DP, the film looked all the same. I think it's going to be a bit. Lighting might change, but not that much, because he has really precise ideas about lighting also. So he's the visual artist behind his films.
Have you found yourself in situations with other directors where it has been more up to you, where they're maybe more performance based and they're giving you like the leeway to choose the frames and compositions and everything?
It's been a very long time since that happened. I mean, I only worked with Xavier in the last 6
Right.
years, but I mean, I do a lot of commercials, so I
Mhm.
shoot a lot of different directors. It does happen on commercials, actually. It actually did happen to me lately, and I think the results are a bit boring. Because I do what I know works well. I do my go-to lighting scheme and what works well and what is efficient. Too much, if I'm not except if it's a feature film where I'll be really more invested in. But I know what you're talking about, and it did happen to me before, and it normally is not such a good thing, except if it's my own film. Because if it's my own film, then I have my visual ideas are very strong. If I'm on somebody else's film and doesn't have, type of director, I would put up a lens, put up like sort of mount a shot. Like I always start by being not very precise. I put up the camera sort of where it should go. And this is a thing. This is a conscious way of working. I just put it close to what my initial idea is without really looking too much in the, precisely for the shot. And then some directors will just look at it and say, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Let's shoot." And that always is a bad sign. Normally, I want the director to really, you tell me what the shot is about more than I.
Right. Right. One last question would be, before we wrap this up, is you've talked about this a little bit already, the qualities that you like out of a director. But now, from your perspective as a director, if you're going to bring on, and I know you've said that you shoot your own projects like that you're directing, but when you bring on, whatever crew, what are the qualities that you look for in a crew? And if you are going to bring on a cinematographer,
I did, for my last feature film, I did bring in a cinematographer called José Deyet, which used to be my assistant like 30 years ago, but she's a great cinematographer now. And it's Yves Bélanger, my friend cinematographer, again, that told me, my first two features I shot by myself, and for the last one, he told me, I don't care if you don't hire me, but you got to hire someone, because it's great shooting your own films as a cinematographer, but you're lacking that. That's what convinced me when he said you're lacking that relationship. You can do it. I know you can do your own shots and you can do that, but you're lacking that dialogue that the cinematographer has with the director.
Right.
And I think you will benefit from that, because they'll get you thinking out of the box, and out of your box they'll get you thinking out of your instinct, and they'll propose stuff, they'll open up your vision. And I was very happy that with the work that José did on my film. I was not sure of how she was lighting it when we started on set. I was trying not to look at the lighting too much. But I did correct her sometimes on lighting, which I think directors should do anyways. Not correct her because she was doing errors, but just not what I had in mind. And but what I'm waiting for in a director of photography or in a crew is a lot of openness. I want, like, from a cinematographer, what I really enjoyed with José was she has a huge, much broader visual culture than I do. And she nourished me a lot with visual references in prep, which I really appreciated. And she had great ideas, and she'd send me stuff that I thought were in my line of thinking, but they push it further in my line of thinking. So I think a good crew should be stimulating for the director, but should also be in total respect of director's vision. Meaning that if you disagree, which happens to me a whole lot with Xavier, for example, if I disagree with him, it is my responsibility as a cinematographer to tell him, I disagree. I think this is not part of your visual vocabulary. I think you're making a mistake. I think this doesn't look good, or whatever. But if he says no, I got it. This is my thing. I believe in this. Then you shut up and you do the stuff. You become the slave. And I really think that's super important, because too much confrontation on a film set, especially on the set. In prep, it's something else, but you can have longer discussions. But on a film set, it's very important that everybody makes the director feel fluid and active, and confrontation is to me the worst. A film crew has to make everything very oily and simple and fluid for a director. You tell the truth, but you only say it once, you know.
Right,
if you,
right.
if you disagree. So this I'm waiting for. An ideal crew is a crew that's really listening a lot to your vision, and that would be the ideal crew.
Really good wisdom there to take on. I do want to ask really quick, because you mentioned that you're shooting in a couple weeks. What's your next project you got going on?
Oh yeah, with Xavier, not in a couple of weeks, couple of months. We're
Okay.
shooting a series, like a 5-6 hour piece. It's very Xavier. It's very good. It's very strong. It's still very family, but broader family. A lot more characters and 3 periods. And it's quite complicated. And he wants to shoot on 16 anamorphic. That's why we were testing it this summer on commercial.
Oh.
On a commercial, 16 anamorphic. It was his first commercial that he ever done.
Yeah.
It was Julia Roberts, so
Nice.
it was like a big entry,
Yeah,
big
yeah.
entry in the commercial world. That's what I'm shooting. But otherwise, I'm shooting commercials like every week. I'm shooting a lot of commercials. I really love shooting commercials. Actually, I'm really into commercials. I work with very nice directors. I do a lot of shitty ones, but I somehow always like the challenge. I really like being on set in the challenge, and I finish my day, and normally I get still get a big kick out of shooting, even if it's substantially not so deep and
Right.
and even moral, I would say, something, or ethical. But so I'm shooting at 1 to 2 music videos a year, but otherwise it's a lot of commercials.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. That seems like a good life, that you're still loving it, doing what you're doing. I hope I get to see that series when it comes out. The 16 anamorphic, I'm sure, is going to look really awesome. Like, just hearing that, just like, man, I want to go shoot that myself right now.
Yeah, it's fun. 16 I'm not a big 16mm fan, but shooting it anamorphic, I think, gives it something new.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, man, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here. You're one of my all-time favorite cinematographers. I'm very grateful that you took time out of your day to come and talk with me. And I think a lot of people are going to love this and the information you've shared. Is there anywhere people can find you? Instagram, websites, find your work?
I have an Instagram. It's quite nice. I have a nice Instagram.
Yeah.
It's not a. I have a special photography project on Instagram. It's not just that. It's also all kinds of pictures. I'm not a still photographer at all. I'm not so good at still photography, but actually, there's a lot of pictures on my Instagram which are done. My project is like there's about 60 different photographers or amateur photographers or friends or whatever that do pictures of me in a special mise en scène. That's my thing on Instagram. Otherwise, I do a couple of pictures, but that you can find it under my name, Andre Turpin. But that's a side. It's like a side game. It's like a game.
It is great. The Instagram aesthetic you have is it's great. Of course it is. But yeah, man, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rudy.
Nice
talking to you, Rudy. Take care.
Yeah.
Good luck with your projects also.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Drinks and a Movie podcast. You can now find us on Instagram at Drinks and a Movie Pod, where we'll be posting photos from all the various films that we discuss. You can also email us at drinksandamoviepod@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe, and thank you for listening.